The farmers were happy, and the politicians could pretend that they're saving the world by encouraging a different source of fuel. But the biofuels, especially ethanol, is having a huge impact on the world right now because the European Union has jumped on this bandwagon, and between the U.S. and the EU, that's helped drive up world food prices by 70% in the last few years. What this means is a lot of people in the third world are going to be starving to death because of U.S. so-called environmental policy. And I say so-called because not only is ethanol hokum as far as an agriculture policy, it's even more hokum as far as an environmental policy, because studies show that more energies, that producing ethanol consumes more energy than it produces. Not only that, but as federal studies have shown, especially in the summer, using ethanol adds to ozone pollution. A federal appeals court a decade ago noted that even EPA has admitted that use of ethanol might make air quality worse. But it doesn't, and studies this year showed that biofuels production results in a net increase in greenhouse gas emissions. But it doesn't matter, because there are these groups in Washington that benefit. And there's a handful of congressmen that will call this like it is, but the vast majority of them are happy to take the money from the corn lobby, from some other ethanol groups, and have this kind of goofy little halo over their head when they talk about ethanol. And it's frustrating that so few Americans have caught on to how profoundly dishonest this policy is, and how this is not unusual for federal policy. Anyhow, those are a few thoughts of mine on the current events, and looking forward to hear the questions and what sort of thoughts here people in the audience have. So, questions, going once, going twice. Yeah.
You brought up the fact that with the whole government buyout, a lot of people complain to the senators and say it's a bad idea, but it seems like it's having an effect. So really, is there any good way of influencing the government if you can't go to your direct representatives and have them actually represent your views? Or?
Yeah,
Would you repeat each question, please?
Yeah, there was a question about with the bailout that people went to their congressman, expressed their opposition. The congressman did it anyway, and is there a good way for people to make their opposition felt? It's a great question. It's completely frustrating for me because this is, this was a rare case where the average, which the average American had a gut instinct that was dead on this, and did everything that they could peacefully to oppose it. And it was a close vote in the House the first time, but the Senate rolled over completely. And it seemed to the media that since the Senate went for it by a large margin, the House should change their mind. Never quite understood that. But no, I mean, it's a very good symbol of how difficult it is to put a leash on politicians once the politicians decide that they can benefit. Because many of these congressmen have got large stock portfolios themselves. And I'm sure many of them thought that by having this market intervention, they would drive up stock prices and help themselves. Plus, they've also gotten, I think the individual lobby with the highest amount of donations to congressmen are the financial service industry. And that has a huge impact. But still, it was great that at least for a few days, the House of Representatives said no. But to see how they were vilified, there was a Washington Post column, I think it was, that talked about the opponents being lunatics. And it was like, well, why? Where is the evidence we should trust the government on this? It was great that so many people spoke up against it, but it's sad to see how easily the media and the government combined could simply roll over that. So, yeah.
I'm curious if you could talk a little bit more about you're saying the food surpluses that were rained down on other countries. Was that done country specific as a 485 package, or was it kind of just put
No. Yeah, the question was about the food donation, foreign aid food donations. The question was specific individual countries or put out on the world food market. For most of such programs, they were specific on the individual market. And there was no effort to gauge what impact it would have on the farmers or in the market in general in those countries.
And then also you said that Haiti had some starvation from that. Is it because they received the food donation one year and then the next year they were expecting it but didn't get it? Is that what caused that starvation?
I'm not entirely sure of the details on Haiti, but there were a lot of Inspector General and General Accounting Office reports in the late 70s and early mid-1980s that walked through case after case. Haiti was one of the countries that kept getting clobbered by this. Basically, the thing that happens when the government would dump all the free food on a foreign market was that the local prices would collapse. And if farmers had to bring their crop to the market at the same time, they were screwed. And it didn't matter what the intentions of the U.S. bureaucrats were. They were still shafted. Congress passed an amendment, I think in 1980, which prohibited the U.S. Agriculture Department from doing this. Voila, you know, it's typical of a lot of laws that Congress makes that have no impact. It was a law that Congress made that sought to put a limit on government power, so the government ignored it. But this is, I mean, it was, this is one of the most brazen foreign aid programs which show the utter hypocrisy of U.S. assistance abroad, because there's such a long record of damage from this program. And yet, as long as it benefited American farmers and the Merchant Marine and some other groups, it didn't matter. So, yeah, they're in the back.
Is it possible to be a good Austrian economist and still take part in the mortgages and, getting a mortgage, when it's my thinking that the mortgage system and the loan system, and I realize this might be heresy to some people, is based off the fractional reserve system, which in other words is not sound money. And the way this bank system thrives today is off, the corrupt Federal Reserve. And yet, me as someone who's wanting to be an Austrian economist, opposes any form of debt, especially to the banks. I mean, I know there's a lot of Austrian economists in here, yet they're probably getting loans, and I've got a loan in the past, but I feel like if I am getting a loan, then I am contributing to the corrupt economic system. Can you comment on that, please?
Okay, the question was, can someone be a good Austrian economist and still take a mortgage loan because it would be like making a contribution to a corrupt system? I guess there's, maybe each person needs to figure out what price that they're willing to pay for those kind of principles. I don't think that simply taking a single mortgage is going to have that much of an impact one way or the other on the entire system. I think that the mortgage market is going through revolution right now, and I don't know what it's going to be 6 months from now, but I think it's important not to put too much of a straitjacket on yourself on something like that, because it's not like you would be, it would be different if you were a member of Congress and you were actually making the policy, or if you were employed by the Federal Housing Administration and making policy. I mean, something like that, yeah, that's guilty. But that's guilty unless you vigorously oppose it. But if you're just taking out a mortgage, I mean, I don't think that makes that much difference. But
Does it come from sound money, though? The mortgage? What about the fractional reserve bank?
It doesn't come from sound money, but it's hard to find sound money in this country these days. I mean, it might be that there'd be some place that would offer you a gold-backed mortgage, and if you wanted to do that, fine. But with the way the price of gold's been whipsawed by the government, among other things, that's almost as unstable as some of the other things out there. So, I guess sometimes there's not an easy answer on those things.